I'm Mick Davie, your iFit guide. So far in this series, we've seen some spectacular wild animals. We've tracked rhinos, walked in the footsteps of buffalo, seen lions, elephant, and lots more. But being wild animals, we've had to, naturally, keep a safe distance from those creatures. Today, we're going to do something different. Today, we're going to get up close and personal. We are at Imire Rhino and Wildlife Conservancy, a famous sanctuary where they rescue and raise orphaned or injured animals and help them recover, adapt and survive. The sanctuary cares for, feeds and raises these creatures until they're old enough to look after themselves. Now, because of this incredible work, the animals are more used to being around humans and in several cases have developed close bonds with those who care for them. As a result, we're going to be able to get closer to them with the camera than other animals we've seen in the series. Today, we're going to meet an elephant that thinks it's a buffalo. We'll feed rhinos that have been saved from poachers, say hello to a 13-foot-long crocodile with a dark past, hear the incredible story of two young cheetahs recently arrived at the sanctuary, and we'll also meet two famous old elephants who roam this property and hear about the tribute they paid to the remarkable man who started this conservancy 50 years ago. So let's get started, warm up those machines, get your legs pumping, and keep the Kleenex close, because this is going to be a heartwarming journey. And there's one animal here who stands head and shoulders above all others. Big Mac. He's 42 years old. He's an orphan. His parents were killed by poachers when he was just a baby. And he's grown up here at Imire. Now, Big Mac was born in Gonorrhea National Park. And Gonorrhea elephants are typically aggressive towards humans because of the civil war that raged in that area and because of the intensive poaching which came later. But from what I've heard, Big Mac couldn't be sweeter. He weighs as much as 3 large SUVs, and there's absolutely no way I could walk this close to a truly wild elephant in the bush. But Big Mac has been raised with human companions who've looked after him and nurtured him throughout his life. He's having a little snack, a bit of refreshment, so as we pause here and wait for Big Mac to continue his journey, feel free to catch your breath and have a sip of water. Look at those beautiful eyelashes and those deep wrinkles in his skin. It's just incredible to be this close to an animal this size. His trunk is just plucking away at these little shrubs and leaves, but that trunk is strong enough to tear a large-sized tree right in half, and that's what elephants regularly do. It's not hard to track them through the bush. You just look for the destruction they leave in their wake. They eat an enormous amount of food every day. And he's looking straight at me, eyeballing me, which I've got to say feels a little intimidating. Should we keep walking, Big Mac? Let's keep going. Now, the only reason I was able to get so close to Big Mac was because of the man who started Imire Conservancy. Let me tell you a little of his story. It sounds like something out of a Hemingway novel, with a bit of Noah's Ark and the Swiss family Robinson thrown in for good measure. Imire was founded in 1948 by Norman and Gilly Travers, originally as a tobacco farm. And like my grandparents, the Travers came to Zimbabwe from Britain after the Second World War. Norman was only 27 at the time, and he had already lived an astonishing life before arriving in Africa. He was born in 1921 in what is now North Korea, the son of a British woman who owned, of all things, a seaside hotel. His father hunted Siberian tigers. At a young age, Norman was sent to boarding school in England. In the 1930s, visiting his mother in Korea on a school holiday, the Japanese invaded the Korean peninsula. Norman was interned with his mother for 3 years in a Japanese prisoner of war camp. Then, when World War II broke out, Norman joined the British Army and rose to command a tank regiment. In a battle with a German panzer unit in Italy, one of his tanks took a direct hit, and Norman plunged into the blazing vehicle to pull one of the men out, an act for which he was awarded the Military Cross. After the war, he joined thousands of British veterans looking for a better life in the then Rhodesia, and he came to this district to farm tobacco. By 1972, though, he was bored with farming. He loved Africa's wildlife, and so he and Gilly turned it into a conservancy and started adopting animals. They started with a herd of impala antelope, and today the reserve is full of all kinds of antelope: impala, kudu, eland, those wildebeest I mentioned earlier, and sable. Sable, that handsome animal with arched horns and luscious black fur, are among the rarest and most endangered antelope in all of Africa. But not here. Here, there are more than 20 of them, and they are majestic. Next, Norman took in rhino, endangered by poachers, and developed a rhino breeding program that doubled the rate of their unusually drawn-out reproductive cycle. He then pioneered the first buffalo herd that was free of the foot and mouth disease that is endemic in the species. This reserve has a huge herd of buffalo. Over the years, like Noah's Ark on the African plains, all kinds of other animals came through. Rhinos, lions, leopards, hyenas, pangolins, zebra, warthog, elephants, and many, many more. We'll meet some of those shortly. All right, let's pick up the pace a little bit. You should be nice and warm. Let's get going. There's heaps to see today. So we're going to visit the animals in 3 different sectors of the property. And we're here in the first sector looking for that elephant that thinks it's a buffalo. Can you spot the odd one out? Her name is Nzu. It's Shona for elephant. And the buffalo around her are her family. Nzo is 48 years old, the oldest elephant here at Imire. She's not just an elephant to the buffalo, she's the indisputable leader of this strange misfit family. So Nzo and her buffalo herd are on the move. Let's keep walking and see if we can catch up with them. And as we walk, I'll tell you a little of her story. So Nzo was orphaned in the 1970s. Her parents were shot by hunters or poachers in the Zambezi Valley. She was brought here to Imire when she was just 2 years old, and she was introduced to other elephants, but she just never quite fit in. Instead, she found that she was much more comfortable with the buffalo herd, and they took her in. The handlers who look after her have a nickname for Nzu. They call her the Buffalant. Now, it's incredibly rare to have this cross-species relationship, but it's actually not as surprising as you might think. Elephants are very social animals and they need physical contact. You can see every now and again Nzu touching the buffaloes with her trunk and smelling them. They're communicating with each other. The buffalo understand her rumbles, and she in turn can understand their snorts and sniffs. As you can see, she leads the way through the plains and they simply follow. And at times when she loses contact with them, for example, when she's eating, she gets agitated and they come in search of her. Now, in an elephant herd, an elephant cow would typically become a leader after about 40 years of age. Nzo has been the boss here since before she was 5 years old. Now, elephants can communicate over long distances with low frequency sound, a little bit like whales do underwater. But strangely, Nzo doesn't seem to respond to the other elephants on Imire, who are usually only within a mile or two. Perhaps it's because she no longer understands what they're saying. In any case, she is happy with her herd, and as long as they accept her as their leader, she's content to be their matriarch. Now, I did say that this was a misfit family, and like all misfit families, it has its problems. Nzo has her favorites. She will let some of the buffalo near to her to graze, and other buffalo fear her and keep their distance. Now, just as she would if she were part of a herd of elephants, she gets jealous of the bulls when they mate with the cows. And she's attacked and killed many of the bulls over the years. She simply crushes them like a bug. Such is her incredible size and power. Now, for this reason, the buffalo bulls are often kept apart from Nzo until breeding time. And at the same time, she's also incredibly loyal, like many elephants are. And about 15 years ago, the handler of the buffalo herd, a man named Murambiwa Gwenzi, was attacked by a buffalo. It threw him to the ground and it was about to gore him. Well, Nzo the elephant intervened, tossed the buffalo aside, and ushered Murambiwa to safety. And you can see there's this beautiful circle of responsibility here. The human handler of the herd is here to protect the buffalo, but Nzo the elephant is here to protect him. Let's keep walking. Now, we're making our way to the second sector and to the rhino, but before we get there, let's see if we can catch sight of a flat dog. Flat dog is the slang term in Zimbabwe for crocodile. It's not all cute and cuddly creatures around here. Let's take a look. Ooh. Oh my goodness. Come and have a look at this. Right there, that is a 13-foot long man-eating crocodile. This croc has reportedly killed and eaten several people on the Save River to the east of us and was brought here rather than being shot. She's kept on this stretch of the river with a walled-off section, and it's large enough to swim and sunbathe in like she's in the wild, but she's also not able to escape and do more damage. She's done pretty well for herself. She's even eaten a few of the travers's dogs and is known to have taken down a kudu antelope who got too close. I think we'll leave her to her lunch and keep going. Now, we spent an episode tracking rhino in Malelangwe, but we couldn't get too close. But this time, I believe we can. But first, we have to locate them. If I can get to the top of this kopje, I'll have a good view. Now, you're going to feel your machine start to incline in just a moment as we tackle this slope. And that's a good thing. You're going to start to feel a bit of a burn in your legs. We want you to get nice and strong in this series. Now, in the 1980s, during Zimbabwe's worst period of poaching, rhino numbers plummeted nationally from 10,000 to less than 1,000 in just a few years. The Department of National Parks and Wildlife moved the remaining wild rhino into private conservancies, which they called Intensive Protection Zones, or IPZs. Imire is exactly one of those, and it's pretty big. So if we can get to the top, we're going to have a pretty good chance of spotting one, getting our bearings, and then making a beeline for those rhinos. Here we go. All right, come on through this way. Check out this ladder over here. Woo! Now you're going to feel your machine start to kick up. Follow me up this way. Come and check out this view from up here. Now, I've been told that there's some black rhino in this quadrant of the path in this direction. And I do see a tiny little bit of movement on the far side of the dam. I can't tell if they're rhino from here, but they're big and they're hefty, so it's worth going and take a look. Catch your breath, take a sip of water. I'll see you on the way back down. So as we approach the rhinos, I've been joined by an armed guard. His name is Tinashe, and he's been working with the rhinos for a long time. Black rhinos are notoriously aggressive creatures, so it's important I stay close to this gentleman up ahead. And here we are, check this out. Oh my goodness. So these are both black rhinos? Yeah. So Shanu and Tafika?
Shanu and Tafika.
Mother and daughter?
Yes.
Wow, wow. It's pretty amazing to be this close to black rhinos. And you guys are with these rhinos around the clock, aren't you? Just to keep
all the time.
All the time. 24 hours a day to keep them safe. Yeah, yeah. Can I feed them a handful? Is that okay? Oh, right in there. Nothing but net. It's like being close to a prehistoric animal. These creatures haven't really changed very much in millions of years. And what a thrill it is to stand so close to them. One more mouthful and we'll keep going on our walk. There you go. All right, let's head down this way. Some amazing animals have come through Imire over the years, usually orphans from remote corners of Zimbabwe. A few weeks ago, though, something quite amazing happened, a first of its kind here. Imire made big news when it adopted two animals from outside the country. And I don't mean from neighbouring South Africa or Zimbabwe. No, the Conservancy received delivery of two magnificent cheetahs all the way from a zoo in Quebec, Canada. And we're on our way to meet them. And if you've ever heard of the term rewilding, it's a growing concept amongst conservationists to reintroduce animals raised in zoos or in captivity back into the wild. And one of the leading organisations behind this is the British-based Aspinall Foundation. They have rewilded hundreds of animals back to Africa, including black rhino and western lowland gorillas. And it was they who identified Imire as the ideal partner for this latest project, the rewilding of two magnificent 17-month-old cheetahs born in captivity at a zoo in Canada. Come this way, we'll check it out. So meet Kumbe and Jabari. I'm about 4.5 feet away from these cheetahs, and they've just been given a dead antelope to feed on, and they're just starting to take some tentative bites of it. If these two cheetahs had been raised in the wild, they would have shredded this carcass in a matter of about 4.5 seconds. But because they were raised in a zoo, their jaw muscles are weak. They don't know how to dissect a carcass like a wild cheetah would. And let me tell you, when she looks me in the eye, it's intimidating. If these were wild cheetahs, there's absolutely no way on earth I could be this close to a kill. But these cheetahs are relatively used to human beings, and so it's fairly safe for me to be here. Once these cheetahs have learned the basics of hunting and survival, they're going to be moved out of this enclosure into the 4,500 hectare reserve, where they're going to encounter wild game and start hunting for themselves. Just having a look at them, I think these guys are going to be fine in the wild. They clearly already have a taste for it. And I'd love to see them running along these open plains and chasing prey. What a sight that would be to see. All right, I think it's time for us to keep moving. Let's go. Now, I think I know someone else who would have loved to have seen those cheetahs on these open plains. The founder of Imire, Norman Travers. Talk about a legacy. In 1948, he and his wife Gilly arrived on this exact plot of land and thought they were going to be tobacco farmers. Instead, long before people took conservation seriously, they turned it into a sanctuary for troubled animals, a Noah's Ark on the African plains. And now, 50 years on, the third generation of their family continue memories. And everyone who was at that funeral was convinced that Mac and Toto were mourning their loved one. And on that note, we have also come to the end of our walk.
What a journey this has been. Life-changing for me in some respects. I was born in this country nearly 50 years ago, left it as a young boy at the height of a brutal war, and followed it in news reports and on brief visits in the years since. To return and experience it in the way we just have is extraordinary. Let's reflect. We saw the incredible Victoria Falls, the Zambezi River crashing over it at the fullest it's been in more than 6 decades. We took that flight of the angels through the spray and mist in a helicopter, that celestial journey David Livingstone wrote of more than 150 years ago. We explored the ancient rock formations of the Metopus, spiritual home and resting place of African kings. We saw the mysterious ruins of Great Zimbabwe, the imperious House of Stone that once ruled over much of a continent. And we saw wild elephants bathing in a river, came close to rhinos, cheetahs, buffaloes, and giraffe. Finally, and fittingly, we ended here, walking with these 2 majestic creatures with memories far longer than my own.
I hope that you enjoyed this journey as much as I did. I'm Mick Davie, your iFit guide, and it has been my absolute pleasure to show you this little corner of Zimbabwe, to introduce you to some new friends, and I look forward to seeing you again for another walk very soon.